The damage is incredible. This is a live shot from the CTV News chopper of a Kitchener neighborhood rocked by a powerful explosion just after 8 o'clock this morning. One woman is dead, a man in critical condition. The house at 56 Sprucedale Crescent is gone. Others badly damaged. 16 homes evacuated as a precaution. Residents are shaken.
I thought it was in an earthquake and kind of held on to the bed because it was shaking. And then when I stood up, I looked out the bedroom window and I just saw debris all over the road.
The affected area is huge. The debris field widespread. Sprucedale Crescent is in the Forest Heights area of Kitchener, bounded by Highland Road, Fisher-Hallman Road, and the Expressway. It is almost entirely residential. This is what the home looked like before. Good evening. Destruction and chaos in a Kitchener neighborhood. One woman killed, a man critically injured. Debris covers the area, windows blown out, and residents rattled. CTV's Nicole Lampa begins our coverage tonight. Nicole, the first calls came in just after 8.
That's right, Nancy. Several neighbors say they thought it was an earthquake. It then started snowing insulation. Seconds later, when the dust settled, a fire roared to life.
Oh my God.
An explosion creating an inferno.
Upon arrival, firefighters located one deceased and one injured individual.
Debris scattered all over, the fire spreading quickly.
We are currently actively fighting fires in 3 homes related to the explosion. As you can see, this was a significant event that called all of our available resources.
2 victims, a man and a woman, both found in the backyard. The man pulled to safety by neighbors and airlifted to hospital. First responders unable to rescue the woman. Investigators say it's too early to tell if foul play is involved.
It's premature to call it anything more than a death investigation. We haven't been able to get to the scene for obvious reasons. It's still unsafe to do so.
Several homes now evacuated.
16 houses will need to be evacuated for up to 3 days.
The city's mayor visiting what's been called the impact zone.
An event of this magnitude is significant and traumatic for those directly impacted.
Residents told there is no threat to their homes, but they're shaken up, not knowing what caused the blast. Now, the Ontario Fire Marshal's office is investigating, but they cannot access the scene until it's deemed safe, which could take another day. Nancy.
Nicole Lampa live at the scene. Now, as we mentioned, a woman was pronounced dead at that scene and a man airlifted to hospital in critical condition. Police not confirming their identities, but neighbors say an adult couple lived at the epicenter of the blast. CTV's Max Warwick is at the command post on Sprucedale. Max, police say they don't think anyone else was inside the house at the time.
Nancy, that is part of this investigation, and they'll know for certain once they get inside the home. But they do say a man was helped by neighbors outside of the home shortly after the blast.
Sam Bailey lives a few doors down from 56 Sprucedale Crescent. He knows the family who live inside.
We have 2 older kids, and I feel sorry for them.
Neighbors seeing a woman and a man in the backyard.
The gentleman was helped by neighbors to the rear of the home, and however, the female, the lady that the body that was there, I believe, had been deceased on fire arrival.
Police not confirming the identities of the adult couple affected.
They could have been outside or blown outside. Again, I don't know at this point.
Neighbors say Udo and Edra Hahn have lived at the Sprucedale home for more than 2 decades, raising 2 children, now adults living on their own.
The son didn't live there. He moved out maybe a good month ago, 6 weeks ago.
At one time, the Hahns both worked at Sun Life Financial. A man was airlifted to hospital in critical condition this morning. His status remains the same.
I could probably say with some certainty he's in dire medical need.
It's upsetting. I mean, the neighborhood's quiet. We don't, everybody sort of keeps to themselves, but are friendly enough to say hello and, how's it going?
Again, authorities not identifying the couple affected, but they do say they have been in contact with the family of the couple who owns the home, or rather lives at the home, and they say all the residents of the home have been accounted for. Nancy.
Thanks, Max. It was a scene so stunning, witnesses still in disbelief more than 10 hours later. CTV's Christina Succi joins us with that part of our coverage. Christina, some incredible eyewitness accounts.
They are unbelievable, Nancy. One Kitchener man was driving through the neighborhood when it all happened. The screams for help stopping him in his tracks.
Over here!
Jamie Compton heard the chilling screams.
Is there anyone else? There's someone else! There's someone else!
Nothing could have prepared him for this.
Where is she? Where is she? Where is she?
Compton had just picked up his daughter from their babysitter's home.
My girlfriend had noticed there was smoke in the air.
He slammed on the brakes and drove towards the smoke.
This guy all right?
No, he's not.
I brought him out front, I brought him out to the front. That's when I went and ran to the fire department. I said, there's a woman back there. We seen the lady and we felt helpless. We seen her lying there and we didn't know what to do.
The scene, as harrowing as it is stunning.
Kitchener, Ontario. Explosion, yeah.
One unfamiliar in this once quiet neighborhood.
Over above the house with brown roof, I noticed a very black plume of smoke. It was probably reaching 150 feet, and we saw flames maybe about 50 feet high.
Rick Behrens lives one street over on Blackwell Drive. He's called it home for more than 30 years.
I had actually thought that an airplane crashed in my backyard. It was that intense.
Behrens capturing these unbelievable moments immediately following the blast.
We would never expect anything like this in this neighborhood.
Hours later, surveying the carnage for the very first time.
It is completely on the ground. Now, there's nothing standing.
Now, residents we spoke to are understandably upset. I spoke to some who have properties that back onto the house that exploded, and they were very shaken. I asked them if they were okay, and they said, we will be, but simply too distraught to appear on camera. Nancy.
Understandable. Thank you, Christina. And meanwhile, after the explosion, residents near Sprucedale Crescent came out to find debris from the destroyed home scattered all over their properties.
When we were walking down to go to find out what was going on, it looked like it was raining insulation.
Pink insulation covering streets, cars, lawns, roofs, and trees, more than a couple of 100 feet away from the blast. Residents gathered together late this afternoon for a community meeting. Many homes evacuated, some people being helped by the Red Cross. Media were not allowed into that meeting. CTV's Natalie Van Roy is on Sprucedale where the residents met. Natalie, many people attended that gathering.
Nancy, a number of families were here. Emergency services updating those who are within the evacuation zone close to where the blast happened. Now, here is a map showing that area. You can see the red zone marking the homes on Sprucedale Crescent, where residents will be out of their homes for at least 48 hours. There's also homes in the surrounding area that are not allowed back yet, but should be by 8 p.m. this evening. And others outlined in yellow who won't have gas utilities for up to 48 hours. Red Cross here helping those affected, releasing a statement that says in part, we will assess the needs of the affected residents to determine what support may be required in the coming days. Our thoughts are with impacted residents and their families. A number of families displaced right now, many in shock, too upset to speak on camera. Camille Bertowich's aunt and uncle looking for a hotel to spend the night. He doesn't live at the home, which is a few down from where the explosion happened.
Trying to figure out where to go. I believe they're going to go probably to a hotel or something. After the 48 hours are up, they'll come back here.
Bertowich says that police escorted people into their homes to gather any belongings that they desperately need as this investigation continues. Nancy?
Thank you, Natalie. Well, this isn't the first time a house explosion hit a Kitchener neighborhood. 5 years ago, a family of 4 was asleep when their home exploded on Activa Avenue. And as CTV's Rosie Del Campo reports, today's blast is reminding residents of what happened that winter night.
The Nguyen family was asleep when their home at the corner of Activa Avenue and Isaiah Drive exploded.
My entire house shook. I thought it was an earthquake at first.
All 4 family members were taken to hospital. 3 of them released quickly, while the family's father underwent surgery in Hamilton for a broken pelvis.
I tried to stand up, but I fell down 3 times because of my pelvis broken.
Now, 5 years later, a new house is on the lot, and some neighbors say they still remember that winter night.
It is surreal because it just sounds like when you have an explosion like that, it just sounds like somebody peeled the can open. You know, just how it has a vacuum seal, and that's all we heard. And then the next thing we know, we smelled gas, and this happened at 12:30 at night.
Gas inspections were conducted in the area at the time, and gas leaks were found in dozens of homes.
Of course, we had our usual inspectors, the fire inspectors, the insurance inspectors, and everybody else.
But fire officials said the area was safe, and people living here still don't know exactly what caused that explosion. Rosie Del Campo, CTV News, Kitchener.
Ontario Provincial Police have released the names of the victims involved in a deadly crash east of Clinton yesterday afternoon. 22-year-old Jonathan Wayne from Central Huron was pronounced dead at the scene. He was driving the car and was the only one in the vehicle. 67-year-old Nancy Phillips and her passenger, 68-year-old John Phillips, both from Clinton, were in the van. They are both in hospital in good condition. Police say the crash happened around 2 o'clock yesterday. Huron County OPP say a small car and a minivan collided on Highway 8 just east of Clinton. An autopsy was scheduled in London today. There's been another fatal shooting in Toronto just hours after a community meeting on gun violence. A 30-year-old man is dead after being shot in the head on the Danforth near the place where 2 people were killed in that mass shooting a month ago. Police say it happened shortly before 2:30 in the morning. One man is now in custody and police are searching for a second suspect. Still to come on CTV News, a good deed in the midst of grief.
He was perfect. He was our miracle baby that we tried for 10 years to have.
How this Moorfield mother is honoring the memory of a son who died too soon.
There is nothing like this in all of North America.
A table that takes your order, plus you can pick up produce and some music too. We go inside Kitchener's new graffiti market.
I'm Heather Sanderin. A grim discovery in the waters of Georgian Bay near Owen Sound leaves a family devastated. We hear from the family of 27-year-old Derek Henry just ahead.
We've got more sunshine in the forecast over the next 2 days, but will it last through the weekend? We have all of those details just ahead.
A Cambridge family left devastated after a fishing trip turns deadly. On Monday morning, the Underwater Search and Recovery Unit pulled 27-year-old Derek Henry's body from Georgian Bay in Owen Sound, just a couple of days after the Cambridge man jumped off his boat to save the family dog. CTV's Heather Sanderin is following this story for us. Heather, his family says it was a place they'd been many times.
Nancy, it was Derek Henry and his family's favorite spot to camp and fish for the last 2 decades. While he was an experienced fisherman and good swimmer, on that day he was no match for the rough waters of the Georgian Bay.
I'm doing white roses because Derek looked after my white rose.
A mother picking the floral arrangements for her son's funeral.
Love Nanny and Papa.
This was the last photo of Derek Henry, taken just an hour before his death.
Georgian Bay is a brute. It was really, really rough water, and it's ice cold.
One of the family's dogs jumped off the boat into the water. Henry reacted quickly, diving in to save the pooch. His mother, Sandra Green, and a friend also went in to help. They had life jackets. Henry did not.
And I could see him over the waves as I'm going. And when I got to the last wave, it was just my dog.
The dog survived, but Monday morning, police pulled Henry's body from the water.
She said, Derek's gone. He's gone.
Henry's grandmother rushed to Owen Sound as soon as she heard the tragic news.
It's terrible. It's horrific to put your head around it and to think that you're so close and then he's gone.
His family thanking the boaters who tried to help, emergency crews, and marina staff.
The divers. Thanks for bringing my baby home.
Back at the florist, Zare's staff will be paying for the floral arrangements.
Thank you very much.
A kind gesture while the family tries to heal.
Absolutely devastating. I keep thinking I'm going to wake up and he's going to be there, and he's not there.
Henry is being remembered as an adventurous outdoorsman with a big heart, always trying to help others, both in life and death. His family wants to stress to all boaters the importance of wearing a life jacket at all times when out on the water. There will be a public memorial for Henry this Sunday at Corbett Funeral Home in Cambridge, followed by a private ceremony a few days later. Nancy?
All right, thank you, Heather.
Can you call Christine?
Ontario teachers who plan on defying the Ford government and its stance on sex education will face discipline. That warning from the Premier today as plans for province-wide consultations on a new curriculum were announced. CTV's Colin DeMello reports.
I haven't made my decision as to when.
With less than 2 weeks to go until the first day of school, teachers have been torn over how to approach sex ed. Just days ago, many said they would be willing to ignore the Premier. But today, those educators are getting a significant warning from the Premier, saying in a statement, teachers are expected to fulfill their obligations with the curriculum, and if we find someone failing to do the job, Ford says we will act.
I've never seen a new curriculum released with an implied or potentially even an explicit threat of discipline for not following that curriculum.
But the government is also going one step further, creating a website, fortheparents.ca, where complaints can be lodged against educators who defy the Premier's orders. The Elementary Teachers Federation calls it a blatant attack on professionalism and the professional judgment of teachers, while the OSSTF calls it unprecedented.
To create what is already being called by my members a snitch line in order to threaten professionals who are operating in the best interests of their students is not a productive approach.
In an effort to blunt some of the criticism, the sex ed syllabus that students will learn this September will include topics such as homophobia and gender identity. What they will not learn, however, is about topics like consent, sexting, or LGBTQ relationships. The NDP says concerned parents should take on the responsibility themselves.
You know, if the government is not going to do its job, there are opportunities to review some of the old curriculum online, and I would encourage them to do so.
The province is also embarking on a wide-ranging consultation process, asking parents for input on topics like a new sex ed curriculum, teaching kids about cannabis, and banning cell phones in classrooms.
This is a live shot from the scene of the house explosion on Sprucedale Crescent in Kitchener. Firefighters and police still on scene. The investigation still in its early stages. We will have an update from the scene when we come back. Updating our top story, a fatal explosion has destroyed a Kitchener home, killing one woman and critically injuring a man. 16 other homes have been evacuated as a precaution. CTV's Natalie Van Roy is on the scene on Sprucedale Crescent with an update. Natalie.
Nancy, emergency officials are still on scene, sifting through the rubble and trying to determine what caused this explosion. It could be another day until it's safe for the Ontario Fire Marshal's office to get inside. Several neighbors say they thought it was an earthquake. It then started snowing insulation. Seconds later, a massive fireball. Debris scattered all over. The fire spreading quickly. 2 victims, a man and a woman, both found in the backyard. The man pulled to safety by neighbors and airlifted to hospital. Investigators say it's too early to tell if foul play is involved. 16 homes are now evacuated. Now, the victims have not yet been identified, but neighbors say an adult couple lived in the home. Authorities say they have been in touch with the families and have accounted for all residents in this home. Nancy?
All right, thank you for that update, Natalie. We're going to take a break now. Your business and health news are coming up next. As we go to break, another live look at Sprucedale Crescent in Kitchener. It is still an active crime scene. Natalie Van Roy is on scene, and we'll have an update just ahead. Three OPP officers have died by suicide in recent months. Now the widow of one officer is speaking out, sharing her story. By doing so, she hopes to end the stigma and encourage other first responders to seek the help they need before it's too late. CTV's Tracy Tong has more.
Even the day of, I had spoken to him that morning. We were planning on going to put an offer on a new house.
Nothing could have prepared Sarah Routier for what would happen later that day on July 31st.
I came home and found a suicide note that he had written describing where he was.
Her husband of 14 years, Sylvain Routier, had ended his own life. He was an Ontario Provincial Police Sergeant with the Tactics and Rescue Unit. Sarah believes he spent years suppressing his emotions and stresses from the job.
Over the years, he, talked about calls, never was really stressed about them or nothing really bothered him until one day in April, just recently, he came home and said, he wasn't feeling like himself and that there was something wrong. The next day he told me he was having suicidal thoughts, and I knew to get him to the hospital and for us to start getting some help. So he was diagnosed with depression, anxiety in April.
4 months later, she was at his funeral, which was held in Belleville on August 8th. Since then, 2 more OPP officers have taken their own lives. OPP Commissioner Vince Hawkes tweeted, Detective Inspector Paul Horn passed away unexpectedly on August 11th after proudly serving 24 years with the OPP, continuing to work together to end the stigma in mental health. A third officer, who has not been publicly named, ended his own life just a couple of days ago.
My heart goes out to their families, their children, their coworkers, because I know too well what they're going through at the moment, and I'm not sure, what the future holds for them or for myself going through, something difficult like this.
The recent suicides has prompted the president of the OPP Association to send a letter to its members yesterday. It talks about PTSD and occupational stress injuries and the importance of seeking help when needed.
The letter from Union President Rob Jameson reads, with the events of the past 3 weeks, I wish to speak openly about member suicide, but a part of me doesn't know exactly what to say. I implore you to talk to someone if you feel you need assistance. Please know that you are valued as a human being and know that you matter.
Regardless of how many good programs you have, the person has to be able to self-disclose and come forward and seek the help.
OPP Commissioner Vince Hawkes says in a statement to CTV News, we are deeply devastated by the recent loss of 3 of our members. As Commissioner of the OPP, I am committed to examining the barriers that exist preventing our members from seeking assistance and support. Sylvain Routier was just 37. He leaves behind his wife and 3 children.
If we can prevent that from happening from even just one other family, one other officer, then I feel by speaking out about his story, we've done some good is going to come out of his death.
Sarah keeping her husband's police badge number and the words "Love Sylvain" close to her heart.
That was CTV's Tracy Tong. After her young son passed away suddenly, a Moorfield mom is grateful for the community support she's received. As CTV's Randy Steinman reports, tonight's local hero is giving back to help others and to say thank you.
For Nicole Surth, her infant son Liam was her world.
He was perfect. He was our miracle baby that we tried for 10 years to have.
But her world crashed last February when 5-month-old Liam's heart stopped.
And we lost him tragically while he was wide awake, right in front of us.
2 months later, Nicole approached her best friend.
She decided that she was going to take the room full of things of Liam's and donate them to other families in need.
I had a bedroom full of brand new baby supplies, clothing, and no one to use it.
Eventually, to get more and more bags to help more and more families.
For 4 months, the Surths have been accepting donations and assembling gift bags. They'll be distributed to families in need, single parents or teen moms, from Stratford to Mount Forest.
A very good way to remember them is to help other babies in need.
12-year-old Dylan is Liam's older brother.
He had a really strong grip.
On September 4th, the day before Liam would have turned 1, the Surths will distribute gift bags at It Takes a Village in Listowel.
Myself, my husband, and my son will be personally handing them out to the families.
Bags will include donated baby clothes and necessities. The donation drive in Liam's memory is called Too Beautiful for Earth. The family hopes to turn it into an annual project.
Other families out there that are suffering from the same loss. No matter how hard it is, she keeps pushing through it.
She is honestly an amazing person.
And a hero for helping others in memory of Liam.
I'm not alone.
Randy Steinman, CTV News, Moorfield.
More news ahead. First, let's check in with Lindsay.
Well, some may have considered today's temperatures a refreshing change. We remain in the teens right now. Similar situation in many areas. And coming up, we'll give you an idea of what's in store for tomorrow morning with your wake-up weather.
Returning to our top story once more, the house explosion on Sprucedale Crescent in Kitchener. The blast this morning killed one woman, critically injured a man, and left residents rattled. CTV's Natalie Van Roy is still on scene for us. Natalie, what's happening there now?
Nancy, as you can see behind me, officials still on scene here, sifting through the debris, and there's a lot of debris, not much left from where this house once stood. Investigators gathering evidence for this investigation. And 16 homes in the immediate area have been evacuated. Residents likely won't be allowed back in for a few days. Police are asking anyone who does not live in the area to avoid it as the investigation by the Ontario Fire Marshal continues.
There's no preliminary word on the cause of the fire. The Office of the Fire Marshal has been called in to collaborate with the Coroner's Office, Water Regional Police, and our department here in investigating this accident. Neighboring homes were evacuated as a precaution and will be reoccupied when it is considered safe.
Kitchener Utilities and Kitchener Wilmot Hydro remain on scene, monitoring the affected homes. Now we will be bringing the latest and all the most recent updates at 11:30. Nancy?
All right. Thank you, Natalie. All right. Well, thank you for watching tonight. Alexandra Pinto has your next local news coming up at 11:30. We leave you now with images from the house explosion on Sprucedale Crescent in Kitchener. Good night.